Now, I'm sure at another time, I will go over objection handling in more depth, right? But the biggest thing that you need to understand with objection handling is that people are naturally inclined to say no. The sale starts at no, and it's a necessary part of the sales process. In fact, if you look at what's called the impulse curve, this is what's called the buying line, right? Over here, you've got impulse, which is essentially the amount of desire a customer has to purchase something, and you build that through your pitch, and this is time, right? And so if I go through my whole intro problem solution close here, I'm going to get them over this buying line. I've generated enough impulse to close them, right? But more often than not, only about 30% of your sales will come on the first go, believe it or not. Some people are just decisive, or they really need what you've got. But for everyone else, they're going to object. So they're going to say something like, look, I just can't afford it. Or they're going to say something like, I just got to talk to my partner about it. We make these decisions as a family. Or, look, do you have anything online I can look at before? They'll hit you with those stall objections. But if you handle that objection, so if they hit you with something like a stall objection, where it's like, can I look it up online? If you just deflect it with something as easy as, that's okay, look, I'm a walking, talking encyclopedia. What do you need to know? And you just turn it right back on them, basically just call BS on them. Just something as simple as deflecting and handling again, you're going to get an additional 30 to 40% of sales. But then occasionally you'll get people that will give you another objection. This one's important because that one, the first objection they give you isn't normally a real objection. The second one is. The second one is generally a concern. But if you flip it on its head and don't call it an objection, but you just call it something like a problem you need to solve. So rather than objection handling, you're problem solving. If they say, I just don't know if I can afford it. Well, their problem isn't that they don't have the money. Their problem is that they haven't seen the value, or they haven't seen a way that they can afford it. So a really common one is a substitute one. So if I say something like, awesome, well look, that's great. Look, I totally understand what you're saying, but for me, I don't look at it like a payment like this. For me, I look at it like a sacrifice. For me, that's one less cup of coffee a week. I am trying to cut back, but obviously I need a lot of energy to do what I do, right? For you, what's your vice? Coffee, chocolate, cigarettes, what do you consume that you shouldn't? And they'll say something like coffee as well. And you go, great. So what we're really asking is at the end of the month, you value what you could be buying here and what you could be doing with this more than you value that cup of coffee. And when we put it like that, everyone else is pretty happy to give it a go. Does that make sense? So what you're doing is handling, that's just an example. That's a hypothetical example. Your objection handles are going to be quite different depending on the industry. So I try not to get too specific. But that final close, you're going to get that additional 30 to 40% here. And so unless you're handling objections at least twice, you're cutting off potentially 30 to 70% of the people who you could be purchasing, or who could be purchasing what you've got. Is that something you want to do? Not really. So what I really want you to get, rather than giving you specific objections, because I'm sure if you just scope YouTube, you'll find some more specific, let's say, you've got car ones or insurance or whatever, right? I want to give you a base understanding of what objection handling really is. And believe it or not, objection handling is really just about frame. Objection handling is really just about controlling the interaction and controlling the frame. What do I mean by that? Well, if a customer is giving you an objection, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to make it a big deal. And they're trying to make it a problem. So they don't go, yeah, cool, I gotta check the wife. They say, yeah, look, I'd love to do it, but I just gotta talk to my wife. So they're actually selling you. One of my favorite quotes, it was from Ben Affleck in The Boiler Room, right? And he goes, look, either you sell the customer or on the stocks, or they sell you on the BS reason that they're not gonna buy. But either way, one of you is getting sold. And that really sticks with me, because every time a customer gives you an objection, they're trying to sell you on the idea that their problem is a big deal and it's not going to be able to let them purchase. Well, if you're playing the game, all you have to do is establish a better frame, because remember, whoever controls the certainty controls the frame. All you have to do is establish a better frame that customer doesn't have a problem. So if they say something like, yeah, look, I just don't know if I can afford it. And you just go simply something as easy as go, yeah, that's okay, but obviously see value in what we're doing today, right? See, that certainty that I'm providing, I'm establishing a frame. That, the idea is like, I don't know if you guys have brothers and sisters, right? But if you got a little brother or a little sister and you ever accidentally, when you're playing with them as a kid and you accidentally hit them or you accidentally elbow them or something like that, and you can tell they're about to start crying. And the last thing you want is mom and dad coming in and getting you in trouble. So you immediately rush over and go, no, you're not hurt, you're fine. You're fine, I'll get you ice cream. You're not hurt. And every so often, your brother or sister is like, oh, okay. All right, and then they've just forgotten that they've been hurt. That's what you're trying to do with customers. When you're dealing with customers and they go, yeah, I know, I really need to spend some more time thinking about it. You go, that's okay, look, I'm a walking, talking encyclopedia, what do you need? I'm basically saying your problem's not really a problem. I'm basically calling their bluff like you would in a game of poker. So if you really understand the concept of objection handling, it's more about frame than anything else. So what's one guaranteed way to lose frame? Have you ever heard the phrase, you ever heard people say in sales, they go, oh yeah, I'm just too nice? A lot of new people start and they go, I'm just too nice, right? This is the problem. People who are nice are generally good listeners. What constitutes a good listener? Well, a good listener generally waits about 2 seconds before responding, just in case someone who keeps talking like me would want to continue their thought. It's just a polite thing to do. The problem is like if you've ever been at a restaurant and spilled like water on your pants, right? If you just wipe it away immediately, sometimes you look, it's not even a stain, right? But every so often, like if you were to let that drop hit your leg and you just watched it, it would dissipate and it would seep into all of your, into the pants and become a real problem. Well, objections are the same. The longer that you take to respond to that customer's objection, the more power you give it. So you need to be having an immediate response, even if it's just the same buzzword that you always use. For me, it's a horrible one, but I use awesome, right? So, and I'll just, yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, right? And so I have a buzzword that just cuts the emotion right away. So I stop that hemorrhage, stop that blood flow. And it's like, yeah, no, you're fine, right? So I say, yeah, it's awesome. And it worked really well for me up until one day when I was on a kiosk in a shopping center. I said, hey, how you doing? Whatever. And they go, oh, no, not now. My cat just died. And I go, oh, that's awesome. And she's like, and so I then changed it to that's okay. And that's been fine for me since. But just having a positive buzzword that you can, almost like imagine like a John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, like a quick, just rapid fire response really goes a long way to establish the frame that you need, where they're trying to say, yeah, it's a problem, and you're trying to say, no, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. So the saying that I use, look, you're not too nice, you're just too slow. So that speed to respond in objection handling is really powerful to controlling that frame. Once you understand that 90% of objection handling is just establishing a frame, it makes it a much more fun, competitive thing. And so you don't get upset when they object, and you don't take it personally. You just go, all right, I'm going to get you. And the moment you can take it as competition, the more fun you're going to have with objection handling, and the more you're going to look forward to getting those objections from customers, making the sales process better.